Low-slung, classic sports car styling. 6-cylinder power in the front, a manual transmission in the middle, and drive sent to the rear wheels. For over 50 years, it has represented the accessible performance car for the everyman. Today, we're taking on the Nissan Z car. Now, several years ago, I did a very hasty review of the 370Z Nismo. I only had about 30 minutes with the car, and I really didn't give it a fair shot. It was a harsh take, but with the new 400Z fast approaching, it seemed like the perfect time to take another look back at the 370Z, reflect on where it came from, and where things are going with the new Z car. The 370Z first debuted for the 2009 model year, but before we get to this car, we need to swing the dial way back to 1969, the year the original Z car hit the scene. The first Z car to hit US shores was the 240Z. It had a naturally aspirated 2.4-liter straight-six engine, which produced 151 gross horsepower. That's about 120 in today's standards, which may not sound like much, but the Z was light. It weighed just 2,300 pounds. The big thing though was that it had independent suspension at all four corners, a rarity in the land of the American muscle car, and big interstate open road cruising. It may not have had the V8 power of a contemporary Corvette, but it also cost 30% less, just $3,500 back in 1970. All of this helped develop a strong following for the original Z car. This basic formula, with some occasional tweaks, persevered until we reached the 300ZX, a technologically advanced, more grand touring focused type of Z car. The Z had become progressively bigger, less sporty, and due to a weakening Japanese economy, was ultimately pulled from US shores after the 1996 model year. And then, well, there was nothing. It was a pretty sad era for Japanese performance cars at the time due to their economy basically collapsing. However, a few years later, they decided to give it another shot, and in 2002, Nissan pulled the wraps off an all-new Z car for the 2003 model year. More in line with the original 240Z in spirit, the 350Z had a revvy 6-cylinder engine, though now arranged in a V configuration, and it kicked out an impressive 287 horsepower and was paired to a simple, straightforward sports car driving experience. And from the sound of things, Nissan nailed the timing on this because sales began in August of 2002, and through the 2003 model year, Nissan sold almost 50,000 Zs in the US alone, which is an amazing run for a sports car. The 350Z set several precedents during its run with what we could expect from the 370Z. Crucially, it received several updates like a more hardcore Nismo model with real aerodynamics, better brakes, more aggressive wheel and tire package, and several engine updates, ultimately wrapping things up in 2008 with over 300 horsepower on tap, selling over 10,000 units still in its final year. With the strong momentum behind the Z car, a successor was inevitable, and the 370Z debuted in 2009. Despite debuting 12 years ago now, the 370Z is very much still here, at least for the time being, so no past tense going forward. The Z has a 3.7-liter naturally aspirated V6 engine, the VQ37VHR. It's an evolution of the 350Z's later on VQ35HR. The VQ37 in the 370Z has Nissan's VVEL system, that's variable valve timing with lift to vent, which is not unlike Honda's VTEC setup. With 11:1 compression and a 7,500 RPM redline, power jumps notably over the outgoing 350Z with 332 horsepower and 270 pound-feet of torque on tap. The chassis likewise is an evolution of the 350Z. It rolls on the same FM platform that Nissan made, and that is no hardship, at least for the enthusiastic drivers out there, because that means this Z has its engine located nice and low and in nearly a front midship location. Pop the hood and see how far back it is situated, which is better for driving dynamics. Likewise, the basic bones of the FM platform make for a good sports car. Front engine, rear drive, double wishbone at all four corners. The basics here are all solid. Of course, the 370Z's platform allows for a lot of room to grow and areas to improve upon, which is exactly where this car comes into play, because this is a 370Z Nismo. Improved aerodynamics means no lift at speed and even a bit of downforce, which is pretty cool. Stiffer suspension lowers it, makes it handle flatter in the corners. Then there's also the flashy brakes, which work quite nicely in the canyons. All of that is paired to these sexy forged raised wheels, very JDM approved, and a bit more power thanks to a free flow exhaust and a Nismo specific tune, which is good for 350 horsepower. And back in 2009, this would have been some serious firepower. In fact, even in 2021, it's some serious firepower. The Z is no slouch. It does 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds, and it absolutely rips through a winding road. But things haven't changed much with the Z in the past 12 years. There have been a few minor updates along the way, like the one in 2015, which saw some different bumpers, a slight upgrade to the infotainment and interior, but otherwise, a 2009 370Z Nismo does pretty much everything that this 2020 model does. And being on sale for such a long period of time, pretty much unchanged throughout that whole duration, has put the Z in a very interesting place. It's almost gone beyond feeling dated and almost kind of feels retro now. The infotainment is clunky, pairing your phone via Bluetooth is utterly hopeless, and for reasons largely unknown, there are RCA inputs in the center console. Maybe for your PlayStation 2 perhaps? But with that retro feeling comes a retro flavor. It's honest and simple. There's nothing to distract the driver from, well, driving. The ergonomics in the Z are sublime. It has a low seating position, perfectly spaced pedals for heel-toe downshifts, a nice chunky shifter, and weighty communicative steering. But it's also not 2009 anymore, and the competition has stepped up in a big way. While a base Z does cost under 30 grand for the 2020 model, which is actually quite good value, I think, the Nismo is 47 grand, which puts it in the crosshairs of way higher performing machines like the Camaro SS1LE or the Mustang GT Performance Pack. Seriously, I've done reviews on those cars. Those are serious performance machines. All of this brings us back to the here and now. Nissan's finally wrapping things up with the 370Z. There is no 2021 model at all, which is why Nissan loaned me this 2020 Model Z for this video. So with the 370Z going away, what's taking its place? Well, Nissan has already shown off this Z Proto. Now they may call it a prototype, but in their own words, they've already said that the car we've seen is pretty much 95% there, as the production car will be. It has gorgeous retro styling, which I'm a huge fan of. It really does evoke the 240Z in a good way. Sure, there are some awkward angles, but I think the aftermarket can take care of that, and once you lower it and put some fat wheels on it, it should look really tough. But this is a channel about driving and for enthusiastic drivers, and I think that's where the tentatively named 400Z is really going to shine. You see, the new Z also will roll on a modified version of Nissan's FM platform, kind of like this 370Z does, and so it's unsurprising when you look at images of the 400Z and the 370Z that there are a ton of similarities. Look at the roofline, for example. It's a dead ringer, but with that platform, however old it may be, there are just a lot of good things happening there, like I've said before. That means the new Z is going to have double wishbone suspension, which is what you want for driving hard, whether you're on the racetrack or a winding road. It means the car's going to have a lot of grip and be easy to drive at the limit. That also means the engine's going to be nice and low. And speaking of that engine, we've already got the details on that as well. Nissan will be doing the best kind of part spin manufacturing you can possibly do here, as they pulled an engine from the Infiniti brand of vehicles. In particular, they pulled the engine from the Q60 Redsport 400, one of my personal favorites. It is the Nissan VR30 DDTT. Now let's decode that for a second. VR30, 6-cylinder, V configuration, 3 liters of displacement, DDTT, direct fuel injection, and twin turbochargers. All of that sounds like a really juicy combination, because if you can imagine this car, but twin turbocharged and juiced up a bit, that sounds great. I think for the drivers out there, the big thing is that Nissan has confirmed that the new Z will have a manual transmission, an area where the Toyota Supra has completely missed the mark. I love the Supra, but the fact of the matter is not having a stick just kills it for me personally. And the reason why I'm mentioning the Supra so much is because it's part of this JDM revival. A new Supra, a new Z car, and it is unsurprising that they're going to go head to head. And a source close to Nissan has told me that pricing of the Z will be very competitive, undercutting the Supra by just a bit, which sounds really juicy to me. You get a small sports car with a really potent turbocharged engine, the availability of a manual transmission, rear-wheel drive, and as long as Nissan keeps the weight in check and keeps the pricing and options in check, it seems like a total winner. And where do we go from here? Well, that's simple. When does the new Z car come out? Because as much as I do enjoy driving this, I'm ready for an all-new experience. Now, if you look at the history of the Nissan Z car, you can put together some common threads, some common things that link all the different Z cars. Now, my best guess, based on what I've seen, is that the new Z car will debut in North America, perhaps late summer of this year, of 2021, as a 22 model year. And you can bet your ass that come summertime, I'll be the first one in every Nissan PR manager's email list asking for a shot at the new Z car. Because after spending a week with this Z, I'll have the videos in the annotation above and in the description. There's just only room to grow. Like I said, you can only go up from here, and this is already quite good. So my expectations are high. No pressure, Nissan. Of course, that's what we know for now. Things are still preliminary. Nissan's holding their cards very close to their chest with the new Z car, and I think they're doing the right thing here. They've teased us enough. They told us all the basic details that we do need to know. Now they're letting the hype build, and the hype is real. So sound off in the comments down below. What do you think about the 370Z? What do you think about the forthcoming 400Z? What do you think about this format? Please let me know. I'm really excited to hear about what Z fans have to say about this because, like I said, after spending time with this car, I get it. I see why this is a big deal. In any case, guys, my name is Jake Stump. You've been watching Drive, Break, Fix, Repeat. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time where I go do more fun things with cars. Bye.